Hello, friends. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Hanky Law. Hanky Law likes solving your problems when they happen, but loves anticipating them so they don't. They provide real people with real solutions to help get your life moving forward. Hanky Law provides criminal defense, family law, personal injury, and civil law. Listen, the legal system can be intimidating and scary. If you find yourself in the legal system, it's important to have lawyers who can explain the process, navigate the legal system, and protect your rights. Hanky Law's experienced attorneys use their knowledge to skillfully defend their clients. Maybe your family is needing representation during a stressful or emotional event. Hanky Law can help. Hanky Law is comprised of Blake and Kelsey Hanky with a family of their own, so you can trust they understand the value of keeping the best interests of you, your finances, your future, and the long-term interests of your children in mind. If you are needing legal help in North Dakota or Minnesota, go to hankyjustice.com or call 701-746-4529. Hanky Law, counselors and attorneys at law.
Welcome to the Cloud Surfing Podcast.
Just a couple announcements quick. I had a surge of new listeners while I wasn't making any podcasts, so I don't know what that was about, but welcome to all you new fucks. It's cool. Just go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, in iTunes, all the other places, leave me a review and rate it 5 stars because it helps get up on the charts higher up. I'm guessing because I had a couple more reviews and then a lot more people started listening, so I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 and 2 together and assume that's what's probably a good helper. So do that, that'd be great. Unless you don't want to, then you can just not. It's fine. Making clothing. Do you know that? I'm making clothing.
No, I have no idea.
It's going to be dope. And I'm going to have my name on shirts and shit. And it's going to be really cool. And you can get that at jakewritercomedy.com. As soon as that comes out, you can just follow my Twitter and all that other shit to get info on that. Today, we have my friend Cailana back on the show from before.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Kay. Welcome back. And we're here to talk more about more crazy fucked up shit in the world because that's just kind of what I do to handle my own problems. I just look at other people's atrocities in their own shit lives, and then that's how I handle my problems. So,
Sounds about right.
That's what I'm here for today. So today, we're going over both the case of Dennis Rader, a.k.a. the BTK Strangler. He gave himself that nickname, so he's kind of a fucking faggot. But, who nicknames themselves? It's so fucking stupid.
Usually they just go with the first person.
Whatever the media usually names them. But no, this guy wrote letters and called me BTK.
But that's the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, well, again, big pussy. Guarantee you when we figure out who Zodiac is. Have you ever seen Mindhunter? Have you watched that?
No, because I have the book. John Douglas is one of my favorite authors, and I haven't read the book yet.
Okay, you need to read the book.
I have a vacation coming up, and I'm going to sit on the beach and read.
Instead of reading it, do you ever have just an audiobook? You ever do that?
No, everybody asks me that,
you
and
need
I never
to.
do it.
You need to, because a lot of times the author is the one reading it, too, so it's not as bad.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to go over Dennis Rader, which he's some 76-year-old fuck. And then we're also going to go over the mysterious death of JonBenét Ramsey, which is still an unsolved case. And, it's actually kind of crazy that it's still unsolved because it doesn't seem that it needs to be unsolved still. And we'll get into that. So, first of all, just to recap my friend Kay, who she is, she went to Alcatraz. Everyone, that was I actually had strangers stop me and talk to me about, hey, so did you go to Alcatraz? No, I didn't. Did you listen to the fucking show?
I could talk about Alcatraz all day long.
I'm surprised I have fans. I'm kind of an asshole.
Just a little bit.
I'm not an asshole. I'm just
takes a special person to.
I don't have a
whole
lot of patience for dumb stuff. It's what did you listen? No, I didn't go. That's why I had her on. Anyway. So, what have you been up to lately?
Working my life away, coaching working at my job as a behavior therapist.
Still doing that?
I am.
Yep.
However, I have a potential job offer up in...
Don't say it. Don't say where. Don't put out big locations on the internet.
Just in Minnesota.
Yep, there you go.
There we go.
Don't put the city.
I won't put the city. But potential job offer there. Not going to say what it's in, just in case I don't take it.
No, you can... just because, like, I have had 2 stalkers so far.
Shut up.
2, and one of them sat outside my house in her car, and I had to get a restraining order against her. So that's why I'm saying, just be careful.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. That's why, like, in all my posts, I'm always like, except you, Heather. Stay the fuck away from me. Like, literally, stay the fuck away from me. If you're listening, I need you to just stay the fuck away from me, bitch. You're crazy. But for real. Yeah.
Oh, God. This is why people suck.
That's why you gotta be careful. Once you get, like, hit a certain amount of, like, followers, you suddenly get put on this pedestal like you're not a regular person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're somehow... like, up here.
Better.
It's like, dude, I fucking go to work still. Like, what are you talking about,
Like,
man?
I'm normal. I have a job.
Yeah, I stress out all the time. What are you fucking talking about? Anyway, so what do you think, what this new job, I know you're not going to say what it is, but what do you think you're going to be? Is it right up your alley? What do you think it's going to be? Something you like doing?
Definitely right up my alley. Studied forensic psychology.
Dope.
And it's definitely in that field. And... based on what they can offer, I'll see what I want.
That'd be sweet. Well, if you do take it, next time you're on, we'll hear more about it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm sure people will want you back on again. They seem to like that.
I hope so.
A lot of people don't. Yeah, a lot of people are like, don't bring on that, and they'll insert a name. I'm like, okay, that's rude.
Yeah, don't put names out there.
Don't tell me who you don't want back on it. Just,
I'd rather not know if people don't like me.
Just based on how many people stop listening halfway through, which I can see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can see, like, when people stop listening and shit, and, like...
I've definitely stopped listening, I'll be honest.
That's what I'm saying. There's times where people do, and it's like, yep, I guess that's where people don't want to hear. Like, some people are done listening there. Yeah. It happens. That's why I have, like, so many episodes. Just fucking shoot. Sometimes you make them, sometimes you don't. Fuck it.
Right.
So let's get into Dennis fucking Rader. So first of all, Dennis Rader... He's kind of a creepy-looking guy. This is what the show Mindhunter is ultimately about. Between Season 1 and Season 2 of Mindhunter, they keep falling back to this guy. I think he's like the main storyline, but along the way they catch other serial killers as they go. So, but ultimately Dennis Rader is what that show's about. And he got the nickname BTK for blind, torture, and kill. So some people say or bind, torture, kill. Some people say it was blind torture because he blindfolded people, but... he self-proclaimed himself to be bind, and since he gave himself the nickname, I guess we'll have to just go with it.
I feel like he should have included something about strangling, too.
Yeah,
Other than just kill.
I think the media gave him BTK Strangler. They put strangle at the end of it, so that was the part where the media came in. But this dude started off in Wichita, Kansas, and I'm guessing he was in Wichita, Kansas, because there's not a whole lot going on, since that just, like... I guess killing people.
Sounds like I should have applied for jobs in Kansas.
Dude,
I avoided
Kansas
that
has some
one.
crazy stuff, actually. Believe it or not, if you look into a lot of the cases...
There's just nothing there.
That's why. There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
There's a lot of job openings in Kansas, but I was not about to move there.
I've only been there once. I've never been to Wichita. But I've had friends who have said, you know, man, you don't really need to go. But I like going places, so maybe I'll go check out where BTK
Not on the top
from.
of my list.
No.
Nah.
You ever been to Maine?
No, that's on the top of my list to go out to Maine.
Really?
Yeah.
Maine's cool. Doing comedy in Maine? No. Everyone just looks at you like...
Oh, really?
what are you talking about? Like, I thought you were going to be funny tonight. You can tell the same jokes.
But they're like way up
New
there,
York,
so they probably don't know all
Connecticut, just pop all the way up, and then get to Maine, and everyone's like, "Man, I don't really like this whole comedy thing you got going on here." It's like, all right, well, I guess I'll just fuck off then.
Right.
Anyway, back to BTK. Sorry, between 1974 and 1991, Rader killed 10 people in Wichita, Kansas, the metro area. He sent taunting letters to police and newspapers describing the details of his crimes, and after a decade-long hiatus, which means he just honestly stopped. He just stopped completely in 1991, and then like 2 decades later, in 2004, he decided to start taunting the police again with letters. And in 2005, they were like, "Hey man, we got you," and he pleaded guilty. He's currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. So if you want to write to this guy, that's where he's at. But if you don't want to write to him, I totally understand, because he's kind of a faggot.
I mean, I wouldn't mind sitting across the table interviewing him.
Yeah, but you're like a forensic psychologist. And just to clarify, when I say the word faggot, I don't mean gay people. I mean like the type of dude who cuts you off in traffic and then doesn't apologize for it and hits the brakes and brake checks you. That's a faggot to me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, okay, you tell your friends, hey man, I really need you to help me out with this homework assignment. I need you to do this half, I'll do this half, and then we can both get it in. And then you end up doing the back half and he doesn't do anything. He's a faggot. That's what a faggot is to me. So, if you want to be offended, go for it. But, just so you know. He was born on March 9th, 1945. So, World War II was still going on when this dude was born.
It was ending.
Well, it was ending, but...
In 45.
Yeah, but it ended in April? Yeah, so...
And when was he born?
In March.
So it would have been...
He was a baby.
Okay.
He was a little infant. Just a little guy. But he was born to Dorothy Mae Rader and William Elvin Rader. And he was one of the 4 kids. His brothers were Paul, Bill, and Jeff. Okay, so Dennis, Paul, Bill, Jeff. This is like the whitest family I've ever heard in my life. He was born in Pittsburgh, Kansas. But he grew up in Wichita. Both parents worked long hours and paid little attention to their kids at home. And he would later describe feeling ignored by his mother in particular and resenting her for it. From a young age, Rader harbored sadistic sexual fantasies about torturing, quote, trapped and helpless, unquote, women. He also exhibited, I don't know what that word is. It's basically where you like to torture, kill, and hang little animals. Zoodism. It's where you zoo and then, like, masco-sadism, but, like, that word.
Animal abuse.
Yeah, just like, can you imagine?
How it starts.
Gritty ass. If you know someone who's doing that shit to animals, you gotta be like, hey, police, check this guy out. Something's going on with this guy.
Well, now it's a felony.
Is it?
I believe so.
Now it's a felony?
Now it's a felony.
Wasn't before?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's seems weird, but okay.
Yeah, I thought I saw something online about it. I don't have much free time, so I could be wrong.
His neighbors, who were female, often reported that he was spying on them while dressed in women's clothing, including women's underwear that he would steal from them. Great guy. Years later, during his cooling-off periods between the murders, he would later admit that he was pretending to be his victims, and that he would spy on women while pretending to be his victims. He kept his sexual proclivities well hidden, however, and widely regarded in his community as friendly and polite. He was also the leader in his local church. Can you believe that? I thought the Catholic Church didn't have anything wrong with it.
I think I said this in the last podcast, where a majority of serial killers are middle-aged white men with families.
Yeah, I think it's like the ultimate cover.
Yeah.
It's like wearing a ghillie suit in Vietnam. It's like the same thing, you know, literally. Blending into society. That's like the most basic society thing you can be, you know? How many times is it, too, when, like, serial killers get suspected and it's, like, the wrong guy they suspect first and that dude's life is fucking ruined? Because, like, they're just like, yeah, that's the creepy dude from the neighborhood. He's probably the guy. You know what I mean? And then it's like, not him.
It's not him. It's the normal one.
You want to know who it was, though, that was really creepy? That Night Stalker guy from California. Remember him? Jorge Hosan. That he would break in, rape, and murder women in the night and stuff. And a lot of times he didn't kill them. He just raped them and beat the fuck out of them and then left. He was terrible. He was in LA for like a year, but in that 1 year he did so much damage.
That wasn't the Golden State Killer?
Nope.
Because it sounds very similar.
The Night Stalker, his name was. Let me look his ass up. He looks...
Because the Golden State Killer did very similar.
There he is.
The man in the window.
Richard Ramirez.
Oh, see, you were way off with the Jorge.
Yeah, I was way off. With the Jorge.
I was like, are you sure you're
not
not
even
talking about
close.
the Golden State Killer?
Yeah, look at this dude's face, though. He looks like a bat. Doesn't he? He looks like a real bat. Like, he looks like one of those,
Looks like some drugs.
Well, good news, he died at 53 years old, so fuck that guy. He died in 2013, and I don't think anyone misses him.
Probably not.
I don't miss him. Anyway, our good friend was in the United States Air Force from 1966 to 1970, a 4-year commitment. Upon his discharge, he moved to Park City, where he worked in a meat department of the Leakers IGA supermarket, where his mother was the local bookkeeper. He married Paula Dietz, on May 22nd, 1971, in which they had 2 children, Carrie and Brian. He later attended Butler Community College in El Dorado, earning an associate's degree in electronics in 1973, when he then went to Wichita State University and graduated in 1979 with a bachelor's degree in administration of justice. So, this dude is like literally working his way into every way he can to not get caught, is what it sounds like to me.
Basically.
Rader worked as an assembler for the Coleman Company as an outdoor supply company. So
like Coleman as in like the
grills and shit like that, yep.
Okay.
Worked for them. Worked for the Wichita-based office there for ADT Security Services as well from 1974 to 1988, where he installed security alarms as part of his job. Which is hilarious because I was just telling my friend Cody last weekend I went to go visit him that his parents just got ADT installed. I was like, get that shit out of there. Like, everyone who works for those companies are like shitheads, dude. You need to, like, if you want security, get a gun. You don't need all these fucking other dudes to install cameras in your house and shit.
Right.
Get your own fucking camera.
All
you can do it yourself. You don't need everyone else to do all that for you. Dude, get yourself a fucking gun. Put a sign in the front yard that just says, hey man, we've killed 3 people so far, just to let you know. Like, they won't... Even if you didn't, they aren't going to come into your house and try it. Just keep, you know, you don't need other people to keep you safe. Grow up. My opinion.
Yeah, but you also grew up in, like, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin.
True. Guns were allowed a lot more out there, too. You could pretty much, excuse me, what? Rack your gun.
Not so much in this area.
Which is hilarious. Well, like, that's the thing. They keep taking away everyone's right, and then, whatever. What do I know? Anyway, Rader worked as an assembler, blah, blah, blah. May 1991, he became a dog catcher and a compliance officer in Park City. So he was like the community service officer for Park City. In the position, neighbors recalled him as sometimes being overzealous and extremely strict, as well as taking special pleasure in bullying and harassing single women. One neighbor complained he killed her dog for no reason. Okay, well, that's just kind of a cop thing. I'm kidding. They don't do. I'm kidding. Jesus. Everyone, oh. Rader was a member of the Christ Lutheran Church and had been elected president of the church council. Who voted? Talk to them. He was also the Cub Scout leader. Oh, right around children. That's great. July 26, 2005, after Rader's arrest, his wife was granted an emergency divorce, which is waiving the normal waiting period. I would sure hope so. But why is there like an emergency divorce as compared to a regular divorce? Like, why do you need to explain to a judge, hey man, I just really need to get your permission to leave my husband? What? What sort of land of the free nonsense is that? That doesn't make any fucking sense. I didn't even know that
it was a thing. I thought divorce was just divorce.
No, they make it very hard. Very hard. Which is why I don't
My parents were divorced in a matter of like 2 months.
Yeah, but they were probably incredibly civil and handled a lot of it out of court.
Yeah, that's true.
Generally not how things go.
That's very true.
Check out my parents, and it was like 4 years of them just, no, it's my ladder. I want that paintbrush.
Yeah.
So it's...
Mama was like, you can just have everything.
It depends on how childish you are, is really how long it goes on for. So basically, we're going to start with the case history and the murders. On January 15th, 1974, 4 members of the Otero family were murdered in Wichita, Kansas. The victims were Joseph Otero, age 38, Julie Otero, age 33, and their 2 children, Joseph, who was aged 9, and Josephine, who was aged 11. Their bodies were discovered by the family's oldest child, Charlie, who was in 10th grade after he returned home from school, so he was not home at the time.
I wonder where he's at now.
I think we're going to get into that. After his 2005 arrest, Rader confessed to killing the Otero family, and the eldest son described coming home in court in front of him, to which Dennis Rader showed no emotion. Rader wrote a letter that had been stashed inside an engineering book in the Wichita Public Library in October 1974, which described the detailed killing of the Otero family in January of that year. So he wrote a little note, stashed it in the public library, little Finders Keepers prize, little Easter egg hunt. In early 1978, he was sent another letter to the television station KAKE, as I like to call it, Cake, Wichita. Not really. You know what? These are jokes and no one's laughing. You know what? That's fine. I'm not you. It's just because people can't hear because I'm on the podcast.
Oh, that's true. Okay. I was just Googling stuff.
What's that? Oh, you?
So.
I know. I'm making jokes and yeah. I have this one guy at work who loves to. He fucking laughs at anything I say. I don't know he just laughs at everything I say.
Is he older?
No, he's like 34. Has some kids, and he just everything I say, he just
so it's like
bent over laughing. He's like my biggest fan. It's great, and I work with him, and it's hilarious. Oh,
Does he
dude.
listen to your podcast?
Yeah, he listens to all of them. Dude, when you getting your next podcast up, bro? I'm like, I just put one up last night, dude. Like, what do you mean? Oh, you listen to it. Okay. No, it's cool. I love that guy. Claiming responsibility for the murders of the Oteros, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he suggested many possible names for himself, including the one that stuck, BTK. He demanded media attention in the second letter, and it was finally announced that Wichita did indeed have a serial killer at large. A poem entitled "Oh, Death to Nancy," a parody of the lyrics to the American folk song "Oh, Death." In the letter, he claimed to be driven by an X factor, which he characterized as a supernatural element, also motivated Jack the Ripper, son of Sam, in the Hillside Strangler murderers. He said he also intended to kill others, such as Anna Williams, who in 1979, who is now age 63, escaped death by returning home much later than expected. Rader explained during his confession that he became obsessed with Williams, and he was absolutely livid when she evaded him. He spent hours waiting for her at home, but became impatient and left when she did not return home from visiting her friends. Atta fucking girl. Get out of there. Don't deal with this motherfucker. Maureen Hedge, age 53, was found on May 5th, 1985, at the East 53rd Street North, between North Webb Road and North Greenwich in Wichita. Rader killed her on April 27th, 1985, and he then took her dead body to his church, the Lutheran church that he goes to, where he was the president and counselor of. He there photographed her body in various bondage positions at the altar. Rader had previously stored black plastic sheets and other materials in the church in preparation for his murders, and then later dumped the body in the remote ditch near his church and called his plan Project Cookie. So he had a file on it, called it Project Cookie on the computer. Double click, see what the files are. Yeah. Remember, this is where he fucked himself over at his own church. That's how he got caught, was at his church. So we'll get into that.
Well, looks like he's going to hell.
He's No, he accepted Jesus. He accepted Jesus, so everything's okay. That's what people say, at least. Crazy fucks. Anyway. I can't believe it. It's just crazy. You're gonna fucking sit here and tell me that because someone was born, lived a beautiful life their entire life, never hurt anyone, but didn't proclaim to love Jesus, so he's going to hell. But this guy, leader of the church, kills 10 women, does all this shit in the church, but he loves God, so he's going to heaven? Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Call me when that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense. His final victim, Dolores C. Davis, was found on February 1st, 1991. Rader killed her on January 19th, 1991, so they didn't find her for quite a while. There was a cold case. By 2004, the investigation of the BT killer was considered a cold case. Then Rader began a series of 11 communications to the local media that led directly to his arrest in 2005. In March of 2004, the Wichita Eagle received a letter from someone using the return address as Bill Thomas Kilman. The author of the letter claimed that he had murdered Vicky Wheatley on November 16th, 1986, and enclosed photographs of the crime scene and a photocopy of her driver's license, which had been stolen at the scene of the crime. That information was not released to the public, so only the killer would have known that. For those of you who watch all those shows, like, the police like to hold back some information because some people would give themselves away. You know, It's not because they're holding it back because fuck the public, bro. It's because someone's going to come forward and say something that only...
That's usually how they get caught.
Yeah, that only the police and the killer would know because no one else is on scene. You know, like, it's usually how they get caught. So just so everyone, like, knows, like, they aren't telling us stuff. Yeah, like, you'll find out when they catch the guy, man. Like, let them catch the guy.
Right.
You know, let them catch him. They'll get him. Hopefully. Before this, it had not been definitively established that Wheatley was killed by BTK. DNA collected underneath her fingernails provided police with an unknown evidence. They then began DNA testing hundreds of men in an effort to find the serial killer, although over 1,300 DNA samples were later destroyed by court order before they were able to be tested. Because they were illegally taken, swabs, things like that.
Yep.
In May 2004, television station KAKE in Wichita received a letter, chapters of the BTK story, fake IDs, and a word puzzle. In June 2009, a package was found taped to a stop sign in the corner of the First and Kansas in Wichita. It had graphic descriptions of the Otero murders and a sketch labeled, "The Sexual Thrill is My Bill." That's weird. Also enclosed was a chapter list of the proposed book titled The BTK Story, which mimicked the story written in 1999 by Court TV crime writer David Lohr. Chapter 1 was written, A Serial Killer is Born. In July, a package was dropped into the return slot of the downtown public library containing a more bizarre material, including the claim that he was responsible for the death of a 19-year-old Jake Allen in Argonia, Kansas, earlier that month. That claim was false, and the death was actually ruled a suicide. But upon further investigation, he happened to be just friends with Hillary Clinton. Oh, I'm kidding. He wasn't. I'm kidding. Oh, you can't go anywhere with me without making a joke.
Actually, though.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm back. After his capture, Rader admitted in the interrogation that he'd been planning to kill again and that he had set a date for October 2004. Reminder, he was caught in in March of 2005. So he was planning on killing someone in 2004, and he was stalking his victim, but that was the lady that we talked about before who went out with her friends and was like, nope, not going to catch me. So, dope lady. In December 2004, Wichita police received another package from the killer. This time, the package was found in Wichita Murdoch Park, had the driver's license of Nancy Fox, which was stolen at the crime scene as well as a doll that was symbolically bound at the hands and feet with a plastic bag tied over its head. That's crazy. A doll.
Things.
A doll. He did it too, and then sent the doll to the police.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mind games.
What's that?
Playing mind games.
It's weird. People are crazy, man. This is like interesting to study this shit because it's like, what happened in there? Like, what? Where did the wire get crossed? Like something. There was a puddle of water. The wires dropped into that puddle of water. Got a little shorted out. We got to figure out where that puddle is. Dried up. In January 2005, Rader attempted to leave a cereal box in the bed of a pickup truck at a Home Depot, Wichita, but the box was discarded by the truck's owner. It was later retrieved from the trash after Rader asked what happened to it because of the message inside. The truck driver was like, "Who the fuck threw this box in my car?" Threw that shit away. Dude.
Oh, God.
I know. It's great. He was asking about it. They were like, "What box?" The dude just threw it away. They went back and got it. It was basically him confessing to the murder of 11-year-old Josephine Otero. So he was really obsessed with this Otero case that he killed, basically. I think it was because the older son didn't get killed, too, so I think he was more like... Maybe he almost feels like he left something behind. I don't know.
Or he just had an obsession with this Josephine.
That could have been it, too. Yeah.
And it was kind of like an opportunity. He probably just wanted to kill her.
And then the others were there.
Didn't have that opportunity.
I guess. That could be... Yeah, because all the others were kind of single kills except for this one. This was the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose that does make sense.
And it was his first.
Yeah.
So it was crime of opportunity.
What a sick motherfucker. He's still alive, so someone should talk to him before, because there's no, like, tapes on him. Like, no one's doing the Ted Bundy tapes, no one's doing the Dennis
Ted
Rader
Bundy tapes, those were so lame. Not gonna lie.
Which one?
The Ted Bundy tapes.
Like,
I wrote a paper on him.
The one on Netflix or the one on...
The one on Netflix.
The one on Amazon Prime is actually pretty dope.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like, it has more information in it?
The one... Yeah, it's not gay. Like, I know what you mean. I watched one on Netflix, and it's actually pretty lame. It's about the author of the tapes more than anything.
Well, that, and it's like everything they say is everything you can Google online. Like,
there's nothing interesting.
I wrote a paper on him, so everything that was in the Netflix documentary, I was bored. I don't even know if I finished it.
I get it.
So...
No, I get it. I do. Okay, I get it. In his letters to police, Rader asked the cops if he put something on a floppy disk if the police could trace it. The police were like, "Nope, can't do that, man. Not able to do that." So he said, "Alright." So he sent the floppy disk, and the very next day, on February 16th, 2005, Rader was fucking arrested because they caught his ass. They opened the floppy disk, looked in the metadata, it had the location of where it was written, the author with his full name, the time he wrote it, and where his home fucking address was, because it was on his personal laptop too when he wrote it. Like, genius, genius, genius.
Yeah. Like, that's something you shouldn't even ask if you're thinking that.
So when the police interrogated him too, they were asking him, like, that he was livid that the police lied to him. That was his biggest upset. He was like, "You lied to me." And they were like, he's like, "Why did you lie to me?" And they were like, "Because we wanted..." Well, right. Like, but, like, just in general, he's like, "Why did you lie to me?" And they were like, because we wanted to catch you. Like, duh.
Yeah.
Why? Have you seen what you've been up to?
Like,
not
no.
okay. We're not playing COD, dude. These people don't just respawn, you know? Like, you can't just do what you want.
Right.
Oh, fucking idiot. Anyway, his arrest was made while he was driving near his home in Park City. An officer asked, "Mr. Rader, do you know why you're going downtown?" Rader replied, "Oh, I have a suspicion as to why I'm going downtown." Wichita Police, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the ATF raided Rader's home. That's funny. Raider, we're raiding your house. Home and vehicle, seizing evidence, including his computer equipment, a pair of black pantyhose retrieved from a shed, and a cylindrical container. The church he attended, his office at the City Hall, and the main branch of the Park City Library were also searched. At the press conference the next morning, Wichita Police Chief Norman Williams announced, "Bottom line, BTK is arrested." Dope. So what's going on? Bottom line, he's done, man. It's over.
Right.
But, like, you know, at the same time, it's 2005 when this happened, and it was cold in 1986, was it, when he was gone? Is that what I said?
Yeah, for a decade.
I mean, or 1991? Okay. Great. But he had to, like, give himself up, basically, because they just put it cold. Yep, 10 women are dead. What do we do?
A majority of the time when a case goes cold, though, it's because they have no more leads.
Is that it? Is that why? It's tough to... Yeah, I guess I'm not a cop. It's I'm guessing... Plus, being, like, a cop is not the same as being, like, a detective.
Right.
I'm guessing, because detectives do this shit, and cops are, like, on the road taking speed and shit.
Yeah.
So,
but
like,
they have to work their way up to detective.
Right. Are you become, like, a detective from a cop, or do you get hired in as a detective?
You usually are a cop first. And
Can you get hired in as a detective? Because I feel like that would be a much better thing to do. Because I
agree.
I feel like there's a lot of, like, PIs out there that are really good at being detectives.
I actually looked at being a PI for a while, and there's just no openings.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. But I don't think detectives are usually, they work their way up kind of like a sergeant.
Okay, and then get into it that way. But
Yeah.
see, I think you need to get some outside people in there too, because a lot of the times cases are solved when police are like, "Help us, public." It's like, well, then give someone a job, man.
Well, like
Jesus.
the crime analyst positions too, I was looking at some of those. They're mostly civilian. So
Really?
they're the ones that go in and study crimes and patterns and all of that. So I was trying to get into that, and it's just, there's no openings, and everywhere requires 3 years.
24?
Yeah, 24.
You're not, I mean, shit. Like, I'm trying to do that, but it's just not, shit, you got like 70 years left. You never know what's going to happen.
Not. Like, I want to retire at some point.
I mean, 70 years in your life yet. And plus, does anyone really retire? I mean, my grandpa retired 10 years ago, and the dude is on, like, every fucking board he can be on. He's in Crime Stoppers, built a shed out back just for the fun of it. Like, what do you do? He's
true.
just...
I'd travel.
He gets so bored. He's like, "Oh, well, I'm off to the meeting today to see what's going on with the rescue hounds." Like, what? You're doing what? Since when did you do rescue hound work? "No, I picked up that job last week." Okay. Have fun.
Cool. Have fun with that.
Have fun, I guess.
My grandma just, like, sits at home because she doesn't drive. Like...
But Uber's available now. You just go on.
Oh, God, my grandma can't figure that out.
That'd be
She barely
hilarious
knows how to
if
work her
grandma
phone.
hails an Uber.
We have her, like, remote taped for the couple buttons she needs.
Oh, just volume, channel, on, off, done. That's what you get.
Yep. Yep.
That's funny. Oh, God. Anyway, legal proceedings, basically. He was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. Soon after his arrest, the Associated Press cited an anonymous source alleging Rader had confessed to other murders in addition with those which he had been connected, but they refused to admit whether or not he made those confessions because anonymous sources are fucking bullshit. I don't like anonymous sources. That's like every source these days. Everyone's an anonymous source. Well, we have an anonymous source. I don't want to hear about your fucking anonymous source.
Yeah.
Give me some solid info
It needs
or
to be reliable.
fuck off.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, like, even in high school, if you didn't have 2 first-hand sources, your paper didn't count. But now you work for CNN or the Associated Press, and you can just... Whoever wants to say something. Like,
I remember
what?
that.
So now that it's on a higher stage, now we have less scrutiny? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense. And people are like, well, why is Joe Rogan's show so big? He's just an MMA fighter. Because an MMA fighter is apparently more honest than journalists these days. Like, you know, like, that's why.
Yeah.
if an MMA guy is way more honest and open than journalism, you got a huge problem on your hands. A huge problem. Oh, man. He's currently serving 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years in jail. He has no parole options, and he currently is not in a state where the death penalty is available. Well, here, let me ask you a question about that. And real quick, just the evaluation. Robert Mendoza. Do you know who Robert Mendoza is? He's a pretty well-known psychologist forensically. He's with like all sorts of the FBI, ATF, all that shit. He comes in, does all that stuff. Massachusetts psychologist Robert Mendoza was hired by Rader's court-appointed public defenders to conduct a psychological evaluation of Rader where they determined the insanity-based defense is viable. But he conducted an interview after Rader pleaded guilty because Rader himself did not want to be...
He didn't want to have the insanity
He didn't
plea.
want to be insane. He didn't think he was.
Right.
He thought a demon took him over, which, I mean, maybe. Who does this shit?
The insanity plea is very hard to prove.
How does that work? If you let me finish this real quick, and I want to ask you how the insanity plea works. Because basically, he was diagnosed with narcissistic disorder, antisocial and obsessive compulsive disorder, as well as pathological need for attention and admiration, a preoccupation with maintaining rigid order and structure, and a complete lack of empathy for victims. Okay, so that's the end of my story of Dennis Rader. So I know there's a lot that I left out because this is a giant, massive, decades-long story. Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to get tweets and comments about, you fucking didn't even talk. I know. I don't have all afternoon. It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
We'll get back into him more, I'm sure, later on. He's a pretty big case, and people are pretty interested in him, so I'm sure we'll talk more about him as time goes on. But the insanity case, how do you get the insanity case? Because sometimes you get it, like you read the news and you're like, oh, this guy got the insanity case. You're like, this guy's not fucking insane. But then sometimes you get people who legitimately are insane and they get sent to life in prison. And it's like, well, is it just a good lawyer in that sense? Or what is basically? Basically,
yeah. I mean, a lot of people try to get,
grab something to drink, do anything?
No, I'm okay. But a lot of people, they try to plead the insanity case just because if they're found guilty but insane, they don't have to necessarily go to prison. They would have to go... They get sent to more of the, like, mental institute. And if I...
Are there, like, jail mental institutes, or do they go to, like, a regular... Okay.
No, there's, like, jail ones. But if I would have been more prepared, like I was supposed to be...
You've got a lot going on, too. Don't worry about it.
I would have had all of this planned out. It's a really hard thing to prove, though. A lot of people just do it to...
I brought this for you because I know you'll probably want it later anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They do it mostly just to delay the case.
Just to keep it going?
Just to keep it going.
For what reason?
Usually to try to elongate it so they can get the jury more on their side. And mostly it backfires.
How would the jury get on your side? You're pissing everyone off. No one's going to be like, oh, well, you know.
Not if you have a good lawyer.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Like, it's kind of like, something like my hometown area has this thing, like on Netflix, Making a Murderer. You ever heard of that shit? I
actually was looking at a job in Sheboygan.
Really?
Yeah.
Mitch is from Sheboygan. Mitch, I know you love when I bring your name up on here. One of my best friends. He's from there. And
yeah, there was a couple jobs out there. One wasn't super interesting to me. The other one, I could see if it was still available, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing much in Sheboygan.
No.
Mind you, the way it's spelled, do you know how uncreative that name is? It's she, and then it's the word she, and then boy. So like girl, boy, and then gan. Sheboygan. That's the word. We're using it. Fuck you. That's what we're saying for this word. That's not really what it is. I'm just that's how my brain. I think all of our cities in Wisconsin are named after like Native American reservations and stuff because we have a bunch of that stuff going on. But yeah.
Okay, so just Googling the insanity plea real quick. What is the success rate of the insanity plea? It says, although successful defenses are rare, on average the plea is also quite rare. Only 0.85% of cases have the insanity plea entered on behalf of a defendant. Over 70% of defendants will withdraw their plea when a state-appointed expert finds that they meet the legal definition of sanity.
So what is really the legal definition of sanity? Not that you need to Google everything. I'm just curious, but like what? Like I don't understand. Like, how do you legally put a standard on what sanity is? Is it just more like comprehension and?
Yeah, it's like how you comprehend things, how you think things. Basically, like IQ.
Okay.
At least from my understanding of it, I mean.
There's just so much we don't fucking know about psychology and brain and how people work that it's tough to like put a standard on that. I guess that's just how I think, at least. That's tough to like, because you get so. I mean, how many different walks of life have I met that you get so many different everything. Everyone sees things differently and feels things differently. Oh, yeah. So it's tough, but what's sane and what's insane is kind of a. I don't know. What's sane to me and what's insane to me might be complete opposites to you. Yeah. And I guess it's just whose team we're on at this point for who's right, you know?
Okay, so basically all of the sanity is do they have a sound mind and do they understand what their actions were and why? And so people will try to play dumb and act like they don't, and that's where the insanity plea goes wrong.
Oh, okay.
So they just have to understand, like, what's wrong, what's right, and do they believe that what they did is okay?
So, like, let's say Dennis Rader truly believed what he did was right. Would he then be an insane case? Or is it because he knew what he did was wrong?
He would have to prove why he felt it was right. So, like, a lot of the insanity defenses from when I was going through school, like on our vignettes that we would have to read, basically are connected with schizophrenia, like paranoia.
Because this guy definitely had, it almost seems like he did have some sort of schizophrenic behavior. Like, schizophrenia is such a wide
There's
base.
so many.
It's like a very, because it's like 40% of people are schizophrenic at some level, something insane like that. So it's like, well, what is schizophrenia then? You know? It's being a little hypersensitive to...
And you look at the DSM and it's like written very clear, like...
Is it?
In order to be like diagnosed with it, you have to have like 3 or 5 out of a list of these symptoms. And if you don't have that many, then you aren't. Okay. So that kind of goes for anything, like...
So it's just sort of, he has some of the symptoms, but you're not enough to like diagnose. I see. Well, we're gonna move on.
And there's a lot of misdiagnoses too.
People just
get diagnosed with the wrong disorder when they actually have something else.
I had that. That was the first problem I had when I was going through. So like, I don't know. I've been off my meds for like 2 weeks now, which is pretty crazy. And I had to start taking them again today because definitely don't do that. Yeah, no. If you ever like, hey, just stop taking your meds. Not a good idea.
You don't do that unless you're told to do that.
Yeah, but I didn't have health insurance for a bit.
Understandable.
So it's kind of that situation. My listeners definitely know what I'm up to. I don't care what I talk about on here.
Yeah.
But for sure, don't do that.
No, bad idea. Really bad idea. The
pharmacist was like, "You did what?" Like, excuse me?
Like, oh, yeah.
So, have you called your doctor? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, do that tomorrow and do that. Don't call my doctor.
Well, I mean, you can. He'll probably just tell you you're an idiot and then you get back on your meds.
Probably. It's tough. I don't know. It's tough. They're expensive. I think even today I filled out like this discount form to like get a discount swipe card or whatever. Still $143 for
that's not cheap.
30 pills.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No. Why is mental health so out of control in America?
Because it's not affordable. Because
I literally have to have a pretty good paying job from 5 different sources to be able to afford this. That's why.
On top of
and I'm still kind of off my rocker sometimes. So like, you know, it's not. I don't think people understand how deep the problem is. Right.
Okay.
So not to get into that, but you know.
Next to the next case.
Yeah, this one's just kind of thicker. It's kind of a more interesting case. A lot of people know about the death of JonBenét Ramsey.
Oh my gosh! And if you don't know this case, you got to look into it a little bit.
This was recent, like not recent,
but it was brought up more recent.
1996. I mean. Christmas Day 1996. You know, it's not like it was international. Nancy Grace had him on her show.
I was only a year old, so
I don't know how old I was. Christmas
in 96. You're 25, right? So you would
so I've
be
been 22 years old. I've been 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yep. Good math. Quick math. Great. Anyway, she was an American child beauty queen who was killed at the age of 6 in her family's home in Boulder, Colorado.
But can they prove that it was in her family home?
But what room? What are we playing? Clue?
There's a lot
what game is that has that? Like, what room? And
Clue,
what
yeah.
Clue? Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of weird things about it. And that's kind of why it's a journal.
A lot of evidence issues.
I have everything. Yeah. I'll show you all the evidence. We're going to go over. It's crazy. This shit is fucking crazy. This is the overview of it. Basically, she was reported missing. There was a lengthy handwritten ransom note found in her house. Her father, John, found the girl's body in the basement of their house about 8 hours after she was reported missing. So she was reported missing Christmas Day. Families scrambling all over the house.
But did they even search the house first?
They said they did. They said, we've been looking all over the place.
Oh, yeah, and then she's found in freaking middle of the room in the basement. Yeah, uh-huh. Sorry.
What's your position on this one? 2 sentences in.
I'll be quiet.
It's so funny. No, don't. That's the point of this. You can do it. There's no rules to this podcast. That's the rule. So, basically, they found the girl's body in the basement of their house about 8 hours. I said that. She sustained a broken skull from a blow to the head and had been strangled. A garrote was found tied around her neck. An autopsy report stated that the official cause of death was asphyxiation by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. So basically, strangulation and a blow to the head.
Trauma to the head.
Yeah, so they can't really tell which one started it or ended it, but both were not helpful.
I would think that the blunt force trauma to the head was first and strangulation was second.
Probably,
to be honest.
probably, or there's always been that thing because I was watching this Cold Case Files show, like not the TV Hollywood version, but like the FBI Files version, you know, and they were saying that like a lot of people try to strangle and it's not as easy as people think it is. It takes like a longer time, so then like they'll just beat the fuck out of them afterwards because it's faster.
But it could also like the blunt force trauma to the head too. It could just be one quick blow.
Right. It's tough to know, especially since the police did such a shitty job with this. Anyway.
But it was also the family.
Well, they did, definitely.
Because who invites a room full of people over when your daughter is missing? Yeah, because that's the right thing to do.
We didn't even get there yet.
Sorry, ruining it, but...
Who the fuck brought these people here? What people are you talking about? My listeners are like, get the fuck on with it. Okay. My listeners are always so frustrated with me. The odds of homicides... Her death was
don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa.
And I'm allowed to say that because I'm
the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our.
Thank you very much.
Like, what are you even talking about?
She just went on a rant because she started talking about the kids in the United States not being able to point it out, and then it switched over to all these other countries.
Real quick, my computer just said that it had a write issue, so if there was a block there, if there was something missing, there might be a missing part of that podcast, like a little bit ago. So I didn't catch it right away, so I don't know how much is lost, but just a heads up, it's not very much. We're writing a lot, so like we're still pretty far along.
Right.
I probably caught it in time, but just a heads up. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, so that's...
Well, that's okay. Maybe they'll miss my rants.
No.
Going off on tangents.
No, it was recorded for that. I watched.
Oh, okay.
It had to have been recent. Sorry about that. I just wanted to point out, like, this is a time where, like, she was known. He worked for a high-level company. They weren't unknown people. This was a pretty well-known family, you know? Rich people are very well-known, and people somehow care more about them.
Right.
So, anyway, They also considered the possibility that a ransom demand was referenced to Psalm 118 and spoke of religious sources to determine the possible relevance. The ransom note was unusually long. The FBI told the police that it was very unusual for such a note to be written at this crime scene. The police believed that the note was staged because it did not have any fingerprints except for Patsy's, and the authorities believed who had handled it. So it was just her.
Which, I mean, if the person is smart, they'll wear gloves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I still think it was Mom that wrote it.
Because it was included, blah, blah, blah. The note and the practice... There was a practice draft.
How would they know that?
Hold on. The note and a practice draft of a pen were written in pen and paper from the... So they had the practice draft upstairs, and then there was the ransom note downstairs. Hold up.
Which is just dumb.
Hold up.
Nobody ever writes
Hold
practice.
up. That's a fucking... But, like, that's a... I mean... Really? Doesn't that, like... I think that's the... I'm just reading this for the first time right now, so I'm just kind of... Okay, flip the page, flip the page, flip the page, flip the page. Next evidence, okay.
Nobody writes a practice ransom note.
Basically, there are indications that the author of the note is Patricia Ramsey, says Police Chief Michael Baden. No, says Board Certified Forensics Pathologist Michael Baden, sorry. However, the evidence fell short of a definitive conclusion. I don't understand how that falls short. 286 cases of... Dude, they got people under, like, for like less than 40 pieces of commonality. That's how they got fucking Ted Kaczynski. There was only, like, 18 pieces of commonality, and they got a search warrant for him. But 286 doesn't qualify. Like, what? Are you shitting me? Okay.
It's probably because they were rich.
So even though Michael Baden, board-certified forensic pathologist, said that it was most likely her, a federal court ruled that it was likely not Patsy who wrote the note, citing their own handwriting experts. The court bemoaned the existence of self-proclaimed experts, saying that they are without credentials, trying to wrangle their way into the case by accusing Patsy without scientific basis. So, reminder, Michael Baden is a board-certified forensic pathologist, and the court then said that they are without credentials. So, just so you know, that the court is a bunch of fucking morons. Like, what are you talking about, dumbass? Did you read his card? He left a card in the pamphlet. Did you not look at the pamphlet? Oh my god. Anyway, so basically what happened, the 911 call and the initial search for the child, there was the only people known to be in the house on the night of JonBenét's death were her immediate family, Patsy and John Ramsey, and their son Burke. The ransom note contained specific instructions against contradicting police and friends, but Patsy telephoned the police at 5:52 a.m. She also then called
a bunch of friends over to the house.
Family and friends. Called a shitload of family and friends. 2 police officers
responded. What was it, like 20-some? It doesn't say, does it?
It does not say, but it was a living room full. So, whatever a living room full of people is.
In their house?
In their house. Yeah, not my living room. Their living room.
Right.
2 police officers responded to the 911 call within under 3 minutes. So, they were at the house in under 3 minutes, and then... So Patricia Ramsey says she called 911, then called friends and family, but the friends and family were already there by the time the police got there in under 3 minutes.
Which means she called the family and friends first before.
No, Patricia's not an honest person, so that can't be true. Anyway, they searched the house as a cursory search of the house, but did not find any sign of forced entry into the home. Officer Rick French went into the basement and came to a door that was secured by a wooden latch. He paused for a moment in front of the door, but made a critical error and walked away without opening it. French later explained that he was looking for an exit route used by the kidnapper, which...
Just to cut you off really quick.
Yep, go ahead.
Their house was 7,000 square feet.
How big is that?
I mean, what, an average house is maybe 2,000?
Oh, really? So, like, what do you think this is, this house here? Like, 1,000? Something like that?
Probably.
About 7 times this size, and they filled her up with friends and family. Okay. In like 2.5 minutes, and then we're well into discussion by the time the police knocked on the door. Okay. Okay. This is the official story, so that's just what the story is. Can't argue with that. Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK too while he was at it. Anyway, unbeknownst to him, JonBenét's body was on the other side of that door. John made arrangements to pay the rent. So if you guys forgot, because we went off on that tangent, the officer went to that door where they had a closed peg on it. So then he walked away because he was looking for an escape route. Didn't realize he was looking for a body because, yeah. So John made arrangements to pay the ransom. The forensics team was dispatched to the house. The team initially believed that the child was kidnapped, and JonBenét's bedroom was the only room in the house that had been...
They haven't searched the house yet.
Well, they did.
Quote unquote. They didn't search them.
Yeah. A forensics team was to the house, blah, blah, kidnapped. JonBenét's room was the only room in the house that had been cordoned off to prevent contamination of evidence. So there's only...
When a whole house should have been...
Okay.
Not just the room.
No precautions. Yeah. No precautions were taken to prevent contamination of evidence in the rest of the house. Meanwhile, friends and families and minister continue to arrive at the home to support the Ramseys.
And if it's a crime scene, an active crime scene, people are not allowed inside the crime scene.
No. They were just coming on into the house.
But because they're rich.
Just come on in. Bill, get on over here. Jeff. Oh my God, Jeff, did you bring Pam with you? Your wife? Oh my God, how are the kids? It's a good old time in the Ramsey home. Anyway, maybe I'm making that up. Maybe it's a terrible time in the Ramsey home, but it just seems like a lot of. It just seems like a lot of bullshit.
If you've ever seen a crime scene, it's not just a room in the house; it's the whole house, and only immediate family members are allowed in, if that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like you're wrong here. So.
God, if only your show could get me a job.
It might. You never know. You never know. There's a lot of people listening to this bitch now. There's a lot of people.
I'm willing to move.
There's a lot of people listening to this motherfucker now. Like, thousands and thousands of people. We're to the point where I don't even look at numbers anymore because it kind of scares me. Like, I know that there's a lot of people listening, so I just don't look at it anymore.
And then I'm a nobody and I come on your show and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
You're not, what do you mean you're a nobody? Hold on. See, now we're putting it down. Here we go.
Put it.
Nope. A nobody. What does that mean?
I don't have a good job yet.
You're a master's in clinical or forensic psychology, and you are on your way. You're 24. Stop. I have so many brain fucking glitches right now in my head from that statement you just made.
Oh.
All my listeners love listening to you. You have a master's degree. You're very knowledgeable. You're getting a better... What are you talking about? You are very...
Baby
you are
steps.
not a nobody.
Baby steps.
Well, you're not a nobody. Just understand that. Ugh. Can't believe you just said that.
Keep going.
Can't believe you just said that. No precautions were taken, blah, blah, blah. Victim advocates arrived to the house next.
Speaking of, I looked at jobs to be a victim advocate. Doesn't pay very well.
Was it like $10 an hour?
It's like $35,000 a year. It's not a lot.
That's like minimum wage.
That's...
I don't know how much $35,000 is a year, but that's probably.
I mean, that's kind of like
much.
what I make right now.
It's
I make a little more than that, but
it's not very fair to be a victim advocate. Anyway, victim advocate arrived at the scene. Visitors picked up and cleaned the surfaces in the kitchen, possibly destroying evidence. Boulder put to.
Hence why you don't invite people over when you have a daughter that's
Just get the Clorox clean. Just get the Clorox wipe down the counter for me.
So many things wrong with this case.
It makes me laugh. It's because how do you fuck this up so bad? Oh man. Anyway, Boulder detective Linda Arndt, who I actually want to talk to because she's an incredibly genius person, arrived at about 8 a.m. MST with the goal of awaiting the kidnapper's instructions, but there was never an attempt by anyone to claim the money. So, unfortunately, this lady, you have to understand where she's coming from now, because she's an outsider looking in, and she's, getting $31,000 a year to figure out the case of a multimillionaire's missing child, you know? So just put yourself in her shoes quick, you know? She's under the interpretation that it's been a kidnapping, that's what she's been told, so now she's waiting for it. So.
But yet, have they really searched the house, because she was in the open in the basement?
I guess not. Yeah, I guess you're right there.
So...
I'm just trying to understand, how does someone fuck this up so bad?
goes.
I'm guessing it's because she was surrounded by a bunch of people who could probably take her job away if they bitch to the right person. You know? So it's kind of... That makes everything hard. I mean, the Attorney General just came out and said Trump's Twitter account makes his job, quote-unquote, literally impossible because he won't shut up and let him just do his job. You know, like, he's trying to federally prosecute people for corruption, and the president's like, the Attorney General needs to stop. It's like, dude, you need to be, like, ugh. Anyway. I digress. Each of the Ramseys provided handwriting, blood, and hair samples to the police. John and Patsy participated in the preliminary interview for more than 2 hours, and Burke was also interviewed within the first couple of weeks of JonBenét's death.
With or without a parent present?
Does not say.
Because he's a minor, he has to have a parent present.
I don't know. Was that the rule back then, though? Because I know that's a more recent thing.
That's always been a rule.
Really? Because they used to be real big dickheads to kids back in the day. Like, bad.
They still can be.
Well, yeah.
They'll manipulate.
Did you see what they did to that 6-year-old in Florida?
I saw you post about it.
I am livid. They took a child from school. She is 6 years old. They took her from school without telling her mom, held her for 2 days in jail, and then gave her back to her mom.
I'll have to look it up. But
it makes me want to fucking puke. I don't care what she did. I don't care. She's fucking 6. She said something. Words are dangerous. It's 2020. I don't give a fuck if she threw a crayon into the eyeball of the teacher. I don't care if she dumped glue on someone's hair. You don't put a 6-year-old in jail for 2 days. You fucking don't. You just don't. Shouldn't have been breaking the law, Jake. Fucking 6 years old, asshole. 6 years old. If you honestly think that what she did is okay, you can fuck right off.
In some states, like, kids can be tried as an adult.
It's so unacceptable. Tell you what. The legal voting age is now the age that we try children for as adults. That's the voting age. There you go. Mm-hmm. See how quickly that changes. Guarantee you they'll stop that right away.
Right.
New rule. No one under the age of 30 gets to sign up for the military. Watch how quickly everyone starts talking out their problems. People in their 30s, I don't want to get shot. I've got all this shit going for me. You know, it's a lot easier to kill teenagers and young kids because they have nothing going yet. Mm-hmm. Again, I digress.
Anyway, back to JonBenét.
JonBenét. We're talking about JonBenét.
I got lots of things to say about this case.
I know there's a lot of rabbit trails off of it because it just kind of it kind of like highlights all of the problems of everything
and nothing about the good.
Yeah, and there's no solution yet. This poor girl is still dead, and no one knows who did it officially. So, anyway, they started the search for the basement. I'm sorry, let me back up one more time. At around 11 p.m., Detective Arndt asked John Ramsey and Fleet White, a family friend, to search the house to see if anything seemed amiss.
First time, mind you, that
this is the first search of the home, besides where they think
their daughter had been kidnapped.
So the search... Hold on. John Ramsey led Fleet White to the basement to begin the search. John opened the latch door first,
And who do you see?
And, shockingly, John finds JonBenét behind the door.
Which, if you've searched...
The first place that they looked... Oh my god, how was this here?
If you looked at the house before all of this, you would have seen her. She's not going to be laying out in the middle of this room without searching. With all these people around.
JonBenét's mouth was covered with duct tape. A nylon cord was found wrapped around her wrists and neck, with her torso covered by a white blanket. John Ramsey picked up the child's body and took it upstairs when JonBenét was moved.
And the blanket symbolizes, like, sympathy.
The blanket does? Mm-hmm. Like, covering up the kid? Mm-hmm. Oh, from, like, the attacker point of view, you mean?
Yeah.
I see. I'm like, wait.
Is the sympathy.
Because they're like, I feel bad about what I did now?
Yeah, if they, like, fold their hands or if they cover them up, it's, like, an act of sympathy.
Because they, like, know what they did was wrong then? Mm-hmm. Okay. Makes sense. When JonBenét was moved, the crime scene was then further contaminated.
Because the dad picked her up. First of all, don't pick somebody up.
Yep, critical forensic evidence was disturbed for the returning forensics team. They were unable to collect any solid forensic evidence from the crime scene because of this. Each of the Ramseys provided a handwriting. I already said that. The autopsy revealed that JonBenét had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture. The official cause of death was... I said that. There was no evidence of conventional rape, although sexual assault was not ruled out. Although no semen was found, there was evidence that there had been injury to her genital area. At the time of the autopsy, the pathologist recorded that it appeared that her vaginal area had been wiped clean, and her death was ruled a homicide. So, yeah, definitely someone assaulted her then. That's not even... What do you mean? Couldn't be ruled out? It couldn't be ruled out. It's like... What? It's what happened? Like, look. Okay. I'm getting all worked up. A garrote was made from the length of nylon cord, and a broken handle of a paintbrush was tied around her neck to apparently have been used as a tourniquet to strangle her. Part of the bristle end of the paintbrush was found in a tub containing Patsy's art supplies, but the bottom third of it was never found, despite extensive searching of the house by police in subsequent days. The autopsy revealed a vegetable or fruit material which may represent pineapple, which JonBenét had eaten a few hours before her death. Photographs of the home taken on the day when JonBenét's body was found show a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table with a spoon in it. However, neither John nor Patsy said they remembered putting the bowl on the table, feeding the pineapple to JonBenét. The police reported that they had found JonBenét's 9-year-old brother Burke Ramsey's fingerprints on the bowl. The Ramseys always said that Burke slept through the entire night and was awakened several hours after the police arrived, meaning that they disagree with the fact that those fingerprints were on the bowl. In December 2003, forensic investigators extracted enough material through a mixed blood sample found on JonBenét's underwear to establish a DNA profile. The DNA belonged to an unknown male and excluded the DNA of each of the Ramseys. The DNA was submitted to the FBI's combined DNA index system known as CODIS to all of us who love murder shows. A database combined of more than 1.6 million DNA profiles, but the sample did not match any profile in the database. I believe to be entered into CODIS, you have to be a felon, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know how that works. 1.6 just seems really low. You know, 1.6, and that's a current number from 2020. That's not like an old number. That's kind of weird. I would just think... Anyway, in October 2016, a report said that a new forensic analyst with more sensitive techniques revealed that the original DNA contained genetic markers from 2 individuals other than JonBenét, so not just one. James Kolar, who was the lead investigator for the DA, said there was additional traces of male DNA found on the cord and paintbrush that the district attorney Mari Lacey did not mention, and that there were separate DNA profiles belonging to unknown individuals that were found by the test. Former DNA profile Candace DeLong believes that the DNA, having shown up identically in several places on multiple services, belongs to the killer. Former Adams County, Colorado District Attorney Bob Grant, who had assisted the Boulder DA's office on the case for many years, also believes the DNA evidence is significant, saying that any resolution of the case would explain how the DNA showed up on several pieces of JonBenét's clothing. Forensic pathologist Michael Baden said trace amounts of DNA can get on places and clothing from all different non-suspicious means. There is no forensic evidence to show that this is the strangler, that this is a strangler, a stranger murder. So he's saying, no, that's bullshit.
I still think there's always that potential if it's not a stranger.
Well,
the family.
Well, here's something we need to take in mind. So, a private investigator took a pair of brand new clothing that they just bought at the store. Like, they went to Walmart, bought a pair of underwear, and submitted it for DNA testing, and proclaimed that it was a murder case. And they came back with 3 DNA profiles, and it was a brand new.
Yeah, because everybody's at the store. You pick it up.
But that's what we're saying. DNA is getting almost so precise. Where the dude making the clothing can be the guy who's then charged for a crime that he just made a pair of underwear. So you got to be so careful nowadays because
for where I've lived in the past, if there were something to happen there, my DNA could still be there. Yep.
Because honestly, how many people are in college or you live in a college house? How many times you clean that thing?
I mean,
be honest.
Me and Emily.
You and Emily.
It was hit or miss.
Men. Our house. Okay. Look at how many times you come over to our fucking house?
Well, almost once a week when we did family dinners.
Yeah.
I mean, that was before you lived there. Yeah,
but the place was nuked all the time.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so let's say someone
Norby and Halpin always cleaned before Emily and I came over.
Yeah. Well, before we had company, we always had people clean.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That house was actually more clean than most college houses, to be honest with you. But we definitely...
Beta, for example.
Living in Beta was a lot of fun.
I remember going over there and, like, doing the dishes when I was drunk.
Just because I wanted to so many dishes. Holy shit. We even had that... We had that dishwasher that you use in, like industrial kitchens and restaurants, and we still didn't do the dishes.
No. Like, I remember sitting there, like, rinsing them out, and they're like, what the hell are you doing?
Wipe off a plate with a paper towel and use it again.
There's days where I, like, miss being in Grand Forks up and
it's like, what?
Hanging out at the house with everybody.
Yeah, dude, just wipe off the crumbs. You can use that plates.
Paper plates. Paper plates is where it's at.
All of our fucking... Okay. I remember how we got all of it from Old Wilkie before they renovated, and we would just load up the backpacks with fucking plates and forks and shit. Hey man, we broke all of our plates playing that frisbee game in the front yard. Alright. Go get more. Oh man. Experts, media commentators, and the Ramseys have identified potential suspects in the case. Boulder police initially focused almost exclusively upon John and Patsy, but by October 1997 had over 1,600 people in their index of people of interest for the case. Errors that were made initially in the investigation complicated the resolution of the investigation. Those errors included a loss of evidence, an extreme contamination of evidence, lack of experience and technical staff in the investigation.
Because you decided to throw a party when your daughter's missing.
Mm-hmm. Bring everyone over. Experience shared with the Ramseys and delayed informal interviews with the parents also were critical errors in the investigation. Lou Smith, a detective who came out of retirement in early 1997 for this effing case, said, this was mad fucked. Not quote unquote, but he basically highly disagreed with how they handled it. Mm-hmm. In May 1998, he presented his findings to the Boulder police with other staff members of the DA office, concluding that evidence pointed away from the Ramseys. They were unable to successfully challenge the police department's belief that the Ramseys were guilty, though. The DA's office sought to take control of the investigation after the Boulder police was unable to properly handle the investigation. Okay, so basically it's going like, who's going to handle this shittier, me or you? They keep taking it from each other. Due to the animosity between the police and the DA office, the pressure to obtain a conviction, the governor had to get involved, and the Colorado governor, Roy Romer, interceded and named Michael Cain as a special prosecutor to initiate a grand jury. So he was like, both of you guys suck, I'm going to take over. And then the DA subsequently took over the case afterwards. Two of the lead investigators in the case had opposing views. Both Lou Smith and Thomas Steve ultimately resigned because Smith believed that the investigation had completely overlooked the intruder hypothesis, while Thomas believed the DA office had interfered and failed to support the police investigation. A grand jury was convened in the beginning of September 15, 1998 to consider indicting the Ramseys for charges related to the case, but in 1999, a grand jury returned a true bill to charge the Ramseys with placing a child at risk. So the grand jury was like, yeah, dude, charge them. DA was like, no, man, my name's Alex Hunter, and I'm not doing it. Because if your name is Alex Hunter, that's just a bad name. You got two first names, and both those names are really bad. So, you ever met, like, like every Hunter that I know is kind of weird.
I only know...
They're usually good people.
2 Hunters.
They're good people, but they're kind of weird. Usually redheaded.
Okay. No, the 2 that I know, like a dirty blonde, and the other one was from high school, and he was just a jackass.
Well, there you go.
So.
Yeah. Do you think this is Alex for Alexander, or you think it's just Alex?
Probably just Alex.
Because I have a friend who's Alex, and
the actual name is Alexander.
One time I called him Alexander, and he was like, yeah, but you know that that's not actually my name, right? Like, they just left it at Alex. I'm like, oh, no, I didn't know that. Anyway, Mary Lacey, the next Boulder County District Attorney, took over the investigation from the police on December 26, 2002, which, if you're counting the years, that's 8 years after the murder, to almost the date. That's when the body was discovered on 26th. On April 2003, she agreed with a federal judge who said on the 2002 libel case that the evidence in the suit was more consistent with a theory that an intruder murdered JonBenét than it was with the theory that Miss Ramsey did it. On July 9th, 2008, a Boulder district attorney said that, quote, not quote, as a result, I'm reading too far ahead, as a result of newly developed DNA sampling and techniques, both touch DNA, and, what is this other word? I don't know what that word is. It's a really long DNA word. Sorry, guys. The Ramsey family were excluded as suspects in the case. Lacey publicly exonerated the Ramseys later. On February 2nd, 2009, Police Chief Mark Beckner announced that Stan Garnett, a new Boulder County District Attorney, was turning the case back over to his agency and that his team would resume investigating it. Garnett found that the statute of limitations for the crimes identified in the 1999 grand jury true bill had expired and did not pursue review in a case against the Ramseys. In October 2010, Boulder police reopened the case because it was then a cold case. New interviews were conducted following a fresh inquiry in the committee and included state and federal investigators. Police were expanded to use the latest DNA technology in their investigation. There is no new evidence gleaned from those interviews, and it was reported in September of 2016 that the investigation into her death is still an active homicide case. So, theories, suspects. This is the juicy part. This is the part I wanted to get to. So now you guys know all the facts, all that shit. We're going to get into some of the theories. So, one of the biggest theories is the family member theory. There are two types of theories about the death of JonBenét. One is the family member theory, and the other one is the intruder theory. But originally, as...
the likelihood of it being an intruder theory is slim to none.
Very slim, because everyone was home and there was supposedly a party, so...
Well, everybody came over after.
Well, I mean, the family was all home, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, according to Greg McCarthy, a retired profiler with the FBI, statistically it is a 12-to-1 probability that it is a family member or a caregiver who was involved in the homicide of a child. The police saw no evidence of forced entry, but they did see evidence of staging a scene, such as a ransom note. They did not find the Ramseys cooperative in helping with the solving the death of their daughter. The Ramseys said that their reluctance was due to their fear that they would be... that there would not be a full investigation for intruders and that they would be hastily selected as key suspects in the case. So their fear was that they would think they did it, and they wanted them to think an intruder did it. Okay. One theory is that Patsy struck JonBenét in a fit of rage in a bedwetting episode and strangled her to cover up what happened after mistakenly thinking she was already dead. But Patsy was not known to having uncontrollable anger. JonBenét's brother later said, "We didn't get spanked, nothing of the sort, nothing close, nothing near lying a finger on us, let alone killing our child."
I don't like that one. I don't think that one is what happened.
Probably not. I highly doubt that she pissed her bed and they killed her for it. Highly, highly doubt it.
No.
Statistically, the strangulation could have been a red herring aspect to conceal the other elements of assault and killing. Burke, the brother, who was 9 years old at the time of her killing, was interviewed by investigators at least 3 times. The 2 interviews did not raise any concerns about him. A review by a child psychologist said that it appeared the Ramseys had a healthy, caring family relationship. In 1998, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner said during an interview with a news reporter that Burke Ramsey was not involved in the killing of his sister. In May 1999, the Boulder County District Attorney's Office reinstated that Burke Ramsey was not a suspect. The Ramseys then offered a $100,000 reward in the newspaper, ad dated April 27, 1997. 3 days later, more than 4 months after the body they recovered of their daughter was found, they submitted for the first time for separate formal interviews with the Justice Center. So, only 4 months later, they decided it was now time to talk to the police. In 1999, the governor, Bill Owens, spoke out telling the Ramsey to quit hiding behind your attorneys, quit hiding behind your PR firm. The grand jury voted in 1999 to indict the parents, obviously, but they did not do that. So that is basically the theory of the family, is that the family killed her for whatever reason. There's really no motive because they won't talk. And then they tried to cover it up. So, and that's obviously what a lot of people, including CBS, the case of JonBenét Ramsey, a show broadcast on September 18th, 19th of 2006, said that they used a group of experts to evaluate the evidence, saying that it was most likely killed by Burke Ramsey, and the parents then covered it up. So that's what CBS says, and Nancy Grace also agrees, even though Nancy Grace is kind of an asshole. So then we'll get into the intruder theory.
Oh, God, don't even go into the intruder theory.
And then after that, we'll just laugh at those. So, and then real quick, just before we get into it, this family ended up filing a shitload of defamation lawsuits and winning a bunch of them, against police, investigators, other people saying that they helped kill their family, blah, blah, blah. Because after they were released as not suspects, now they were officially not guilty, not happening. So now that you can sue because they were being, your face right now. The intruder theory. The Ramseys developed this theory.
Because they found a footprint in the basement. They found a footprint in the basement that is from a boot that does not belong to any of them. There was three people that they thought it could have been.
The Ramseys developed a relationship with the district attorney Mary Lacey at the time and her office, and they were criticized for that relationship, saying that it also got in the way of the investigation because no shit. Mary Lacey, blah, blah, blah. Although the police may have still suspected the Ramseys, they and the prosecutor followed leads for the intruders partly due to the unidentified boot mark left in the basement room where JonBenét's body was found. The police routinely ignored leads to any suspects outside the family, including the neighbor Bill McReynolds, who played Santa Claus, former family housekeeper Linda Hoffman Pugh, and a man named Michael McLaughlin, who died of an apparent suicide shortly after the JonBenét's death. Hundreds of DNA tests were performed to find the match of the DNA recovery of her autopsy, although none were found. Smith assessed the evidence and concluded that an intruder had committed the crime. So, we've just thrown everything else off the table. We have a boot in the basement. It was 100% intruder now. On the night they were killed, there was 2 windows that were left unlocked and slightly open to allow for electrical cords for the outside Christmas lights to pass through. A broken basement window, and 1 unlocked door. Smith's theory was that someone entered the home through the broken basement window, and that went up to her room, brought her down there, and then committed the atrocious act. Even though about 14 seconds ago they said the scene was staged. The scene was staged. Sorry. So, blah blah blah. There were cobwebs and tracks in various windows. There was dust that were undisturbed, and there was debris all over the windowsills, meaning that there was most likely not a forced entry through any of the windows. Smith's theory was still supported by former FBI agent John Douglas, who had been hired by the Ramsey family.
Awesome book author. I have like 3 or 4 of his books.
He's a good author?
Yeah.
Well, he was hired by the Ramseys to support their case. So, hope that helps. While no longer an official investigator on the case, Smith continued to work on it until his death in 2010. Stephen Singular, author of the book Presumed Guilty: An Investigation into JonBenet Ramsey's Case, refers to consultations with cybercrime specialists who believe that JonBenet, due to her beauty pageant experience, could have attracted the attention of child pornographers and pedophiles. Very true. It was determined that there had been more than 100 burglaries in the Ramsey's neighborhood in the month before JonBenét's murder. There are 38 registered sex offenders living within a 1-mile radius of the Ramsey's home. It's really fucking close. In 2001, former Boulder County prosecutor Trip DeMuth. Some of these names are hard, man. Jesus. What happened to John Smith? I want some of those. And Boulder County Sheriff's Detective Steve Ainsworth stated that there was a more aggressive investigation of the intruder theory. So they were definitely going with intruder. One of the individuals whom Smith identified was a suspect was Gary Howard Olivia, who was arrested for 2 counts of attempted exploitation of a child and 1 count of sexual exploitation of a child. Isn't that just 3 counts? Oh, 2 were attempted. One was just regular. Okay. Not just regular, but like, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
God damn it, I say some shit sometimes, man. 48 Hours also concluded an episode saying that it was most likely Gary Howard Olivia. So basically, there's a bunch of books out. DA office investigates the pedophile theory, indicating that a former Denver prosecutor, Gang Silverman, that the district attorney's office followed the intruder theory as well. Silverman said, "Once you have concealed the possibility of an intruder, I don't see how the Ramseys could have ever successfully been prosecuted." Gordon Combs joins the office as an investigator under Lacey when they were testing JonBenét's clothing for touch DNA. He also said that Lacey strongly supported the intruder theory and talked about it with the staff. So it seems like everyone investigating this was always like, "Hey man, this is what it is."
Right.
So since then, there have been some false confessions. So those are the two theories. The first false confession was by someone in jail who was trying to get a lesser time, and so it was just kind of let go. No one really cares about him. I'm not going to talk about him because he's just full of shit. Just another pedophile who was trying to get less time in jail so he can go back out and diddle more kids. So fuck that guy. But this guy,
jeez,
I don't like that shit, man. Like, don't confess to shit. Like, just because you want less time in jail.
I get it.
You fucked up, man.
I get it.
You're in jail, you know? Okay. John Mark Kerr, a 41-year-old elementary school teacher, was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand on August 15, 2006 when he falsely confessed to murdering JonBenet. He claimed that he... Shut up, computer. He claimed that he drugged her, sexually assaulted her, and then accidentally killed her, according to CNN.
But no drugs were found in her system.
Mm-hmm. Authorities said that they did not find any evidence of drugs. They didn't find any evidence of, other than we already talked about, they said they didn't find evidence of the sexual assault or rape, even though they probably did. And that it obviously wasn't an accidental killing. So they were like, this guy didn't do it. In his confession, Carr provided only the basic facts that were publicly known and failed to provide any details of the killing that the police withheld from the public, meaning that this guy was most likely full of shit. DNA samples were taken and Carr did not match any DNA found from anywhere in the house. And those are the theories. And that's JonBenet Ramsey. So who do you think did it?
I think it was all the family.
I do too. I think the brother got a little pissed off on Christmas, didn't like her a whole lot about some toys she got, swat her over the head, was like, "Oh shit, we got to stage this. We're a rich family. We can't get caught doing this." Yeah,
or he was jealous of her.
There's a lot of things that could have happened.
She got all of the attention from family.
The intruder theory, although there were a lot of break-ins and stuff, it's Christmas Day. The family's home. I don't think so.
If they're intruding from the basement and she's all the way upstairs, that's a lot.
And there was no dust in the window that was unsettled. You know,
but yet there was dust on the floor.
A boot print on the floor. So he got in without just touching the dust, but was stupid enough to leave a boot print.
Right.
Okay. Seems far-fetched to me.
Yep.
Seems a little extreme.
I could see it being the...
Well, if the note was staged and the scene was staged, why isn't the boot print staged? Like, everything but the boot print was staged?
Right.
Okay.
And it makes more sense to have it be the brother, and then the parents being, like, upset that the brother hurt the daughter, and then they're covering it up so they don't, like, lose both kids. They only lose one. Like, that's just the most realistic. But then, the other one, like, you could think about if intruder or whatever, maybe say a friend of the family. No, this is another one that most likely isn't realistic, but friend of the family, the guy that went to search with the dad. What was his name? Will or something like that? Maybe he had something to do with it.
What was his name? That was just weird because they just like, you go down there and look for him, and it's
like,
gonna be
you two. So it's like maybe he had something to do with it.
Fleet White.
Oh, I was way off with the Will.
What kind of a name is Fleet? A bunch of cars?
Right. No, I definitely think it was the brother, and the mom tried to cover it up. But
to this day, the case of JonBenet Ramsey remains
open.
Unsolved.
And open.
Completely unsolved. Even though it seems kind of solved, it's unsolved.
It'll forever be
kind of like
OJ.
Yeah.
Well, he was exonerated.
Sort of. He was exonerated, but then when they got sued, he was found guilty in the lawsuit. Because they were like, you clearly killed this bitch. And plus, no one ever found out. They were just like, OJ didn't do it, then I guess we don't need to figure out who killed them anymore. Isn't that weird? Like, they never named someone else. They were just like, wasn't OJ. Okay.
Right.
That's all it was. Like, no one cared anymore.
No.
Anyway, I know you got to get out of here. Thank you again for coming on the show. I appreciate it. My guests appreciate it. All of my fans love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, fucking rate my shit right now. Open your phone right now. Go into there and give me 5 stars on there. Do it right now. Do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do it. You're not doing anything. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. Anyway, if you want anyone to follow you on Instagram, anything like that, Or do you want to be left the fuck alone?
I don't care.
Okay, what's your handle?
It's Cailana Kadlec. That's it.
Cailana Kadlec. I'll spell her name out, obviously. Alright, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.